And bizarrely, this was actually a law case I was involved with some years ago, where this was an individual who had just been convicted of his 8th and 9th murders. And this was a serial murderer, and he was like a nightmare beyond imagination, what this man was. And this 8th and 9th one had just been 2 boys he had abducted, kept captive for a week, sexually raped, sexually mutilated, and strangled. And this was number 8 and 9. And he had been brought out of a maximum security prison in Florida, where he was serving a whole bunch of other life sentences. And this was a case down in San Diego that he was brought out for that one. And the defense consisted of 3 minutes of the defense attorneys getting up and saying, yes, he did it. He absolutely did it. This was the defense. So this was now in the penalty phase, deciding, was this person going to get the death penalty, or was he going to get life in prison without the chance for parole? And the relevant thing about him was, when he was 6 years old, he had had a massive car accident that destroyed his frontal cortex. He spent 2 months in a coma, no prior history of antisocial behavior, no family history of any of it, came out of it extremely behaviorally disinhibited. By age 11, he had assaulted his first individual, first murder by age 13, a completely broken machine. Here's what behavior looks like in somebody with no frontal cortex in this realm. One of the things he also did, in addition to a string of murders, were kidnapping and rape and aggravated assault. And this was one woman who had managed to fortunately survive this. And she'd been abducted by him, where he took her to his apartment and kept her there for a week, repeatedly raping her, beating her senseless, days and days of this going on. And eventually, whatever it is that shifted in him shifted. He had, of course, her wallet in the process of kidnapping her, and seeing her name, where she lived. He finally says, okay, time to go, bundles her into his car and drives her home. And as he lets her out, he says, I had a really good time. I hope you did too. Here's my phone number. Maybe we can get together again sometime. And drives away. And no surprise, he was arrested within an hour or so, and eventually sort of pinned to a whole bunch of these other ones. This is what it looks like when you got no frontal cortex. What's interesting there is obviously making no attempt to cover his tracks, he was able to verbalize some of these rules and say it was inappropriate, and he was able even to be told the specifics of his own case with other names used, and be able to say, whoa, that's not something you should do, that's against the law. At these junctures, though, completely going off the rails. He had an interesting combination, though, which is that there were some elements of the difference between right and wrong aspect of it. The fact that he had his frontal cortex damaged so early in life, what you tend to see is around age 5 or 6 or younger, the person tends to never quite incorporate the rules either. It's not till you get, say, adults who get frontal damage that you get the absolutely pure dissociation between this is not okay to do, this is a wrong thing to do, I am not going to do it, and then goes and does it. He instead had this much more mixed case there. When you get the frontal damage around ages 5 or 6 or younger, you get what is now termed acquired sociopathy. You don't do a great job of incorporating the rules themselves, and you certainly can't act on it. So this is what it looks like with someone who is that broken in this part of the brain. Ironic ending, first jury was hung. We got one person to hold out for organic impairment and give him life without parole. So that was a mistrial, and second jury went through the whole thing all over again, and it took him 3 hours to give him the death penalty. So what's very interesting there is like 25% of men on death row have a history of concussive trauma to their frontal cortex. Really, really interesting.